Alice, Tom, Mia, and Leo stepped out of their small shuttle and onto the wide platform that floated above the strange alien landscape. The academy was enormous, made of shining metal that reflected the greenish light of the planet's sun. Towering structures twisted upward like they were reaching for the sky, with bridges connecting them in patterns no human mind could easily understand. The air felt thicker here, and each breath made them aware of how different this world was. Even the gravity was slightly stronger than what they were used to on their death world, but none of them complained. After all, surviving a death world taught a person to take anything in stride. The shuttle doors closed with a hiss behind them, leaving the 4 humans standing alone in the open expanse. Alien students were already scattered across the platform, walking with long, precise strides, or floating slightly above the ground as if gravity didn't touch them. They were tall, their skin shimmering in shades of blue and silver, and multiple eyes blinked independently across their faces. Their limbs ended in sharp claws or delicate tendrils, none of which the humans recognized as hands. A few stopped to stare at them, whispering in a language that sounded like soft wind chimes, punctuated by clicks and hums. A tall figure approached from the center of the platform, moving with a grace that made even the humans pause. Its head had 3 eyes evenly spaced, and it had 6 arms folded behind its back. The other aliens quickly straightened in its presence, bowing slightly or lowering their heads. This one, clearly an instructor, spoke in a deep voice that resonated in the humans' chests. "Welcome, fragile creatures," it said. "We will see if your kind can even endure a single day here." Alice narrowed her eyes but said nothing. She had faced more dangerous mornings than this. Tom, as usual, shrugged, putting his hands in his pockets. Mia scanned the surroundings, trying to memorize exits, paths, and potential hiding places, while Leo adjusted the straps of his pack, ready for whatever came next. None of them felt fear, only curiosity. Their planet had taught them that danger was a teacher, not an enemy, and this place was likely full of lessons. The instructor's 6 arms moved in gestures that none of the humans understood. A few alien students stepped closer, clearly eager to witness the entertainment of the humans' arrival. One whispered to another, and both glanced at the humans with a mix of pity and amusement. "Look at them," one said softly, its voice almost musical. "They will not last an hour." Alice didn't respond. She had learned long ago that arrogance from others was a weakness you could use. Tom, sensing her tension, grinned slightly. "Better to be underestimated," he muttered. Mia raised an eyebrow at him but didn't correct him. Leo simply folded his arms, ready to prove everyone wrong. In truth, the 4 of them had faced creatures that could kill a human with a glance and storms that could tear cities apart, yet here they were, standing calmly in a field of alien skeptics. The platform beneath their feet suddenly vibrated, and a holographic map rose from the ground. It projected the layout of the academy in glowing lines and shapes, with different sections labeled in symbols they couldn't read. The instructor spoke again. "Your orientation will begin. Observe and follow carefully. Do not fall behind or you will fail immediately." Alice stepped forward instinctively, her boots clanging against the metal floor. She didn't understand most of the instructions, but the principle was clear. Move, adapt, survive. Tom fell into step beside her, whistling softly. Mia lingered for a moment, studying the floating pathways and the shimmering barriers that seemed to appear and disappear along the edges of the platform. Leo stayed at the rear, scanning for potential hazards. Even here, on what appeared to be a controlled training ground, they could sense the subtle dangers that others might ignore. As they moved deeper into the academy, the alien students began to watch more closely. Some whispered and laughed, but a few simply stared in disbelief. Humans did not look fragile in the way they expected. Their skin was tanned from harsh sunlight, their muscles firm from climbing, running, and fighting on their home planet, and their eyes burned with a quiet determination. The aliens had trained for precision and efficiency, but they had never encountered beings who survived by sheer instinct, toughness, and adaptability. Alice glanced at the instructor again, noting the way it raised an arm and pointed to the first training area. It seemed impossible to navigate. Platforms tilted at sharp angles, some spinning slowly in midair, and energy barriers crisscrossed the course. Other students approached cautiously, testing the surfaces with their claws or levitating over obstacles. Alice felt a thrill. This looked exactly like the kind of challenge humans thrived on. Tom let out a low whistle. "I thought they were joking," he said, eyeing the course. "This looks fun." Mia shook her head. "Fun is one word. Dangerous is another. Don't forget we're not here to play." Leo grinned. "Dangerous is my kind of normal." The instructor's voice echoed across the platform. First test begins in 5 cycles. Observe and prepare. 5 cycles on this planet might have been seconds, but to the humans, it felt like an eternity. They took deep breaths, stretched, and readied themselves. Around them, the alien students were already murmuring about how certain it was that the humans would fail. But failure was not in their nature. On their death world, Alice had survived a sandstorm that could strip flesh from bone. Tom had fought off a pack of predators twice his size with nothing but a sharpened stick. Mia had navigated toxic swamps and returned unscathed. Leo had once carried 3 injured companions across a burning canyon to safety. Survival was second nature to them, and they knew the only rule here was to adapt faster than the obstacles did. When the signal came, the humans moved as if they had rehearsed it their entire lives. They stumbled, jumped, and rolled, finding their rhythm instinctively. Aliens gasped and whispered. No other species had managed to move so freely across the shifting, spinning platforms. They were not graceful in the way the aliens expected. Human movement was messy, rough, unpredictable, but it worked. Every slip became a roll, every misstep a chance to gain momentum. Alice grabbed a rotating platform just as it began to spin away. She twisted her body and landed on a stable edge. Tom jumped between 2 energy barriers, timing it perfectly by instinct. Mia scanned each movement, calculating angles in her head, adjusting on the fly. Leo used brute strength to push a platform that wobbled dangerously under the weight of a smaller alien student, saving them both from falling. By the time they reached the end, every alien instructor and student watching had stopped talking. Some stared with open mouths, others blinked rapidly as if trying to process what they had just seen. The humans were not elegant, not precise, but they had finished the course first, moving with a combination of instinct, strength, and raw adaptability. The instructor raised its 6 arms in a gesture of disbelief. This cannot be correct, it muttered. The humans stepped toward the obstacle course, their eyes scanning the spinning platforms, energy barriers, and swinging chains that looked impossible to cross. Alien students were already testing the course, their movements precise and careful. They leaped gracefully or floated above the barriers, but most fell, stumbled, or froze in confusion. Their mistakes were quick to punish them, falling into gaps, getting zapped by the energy beams, or swinging too early and landing in the wrong place. The course had been designed to be unbeatable, or at least that's what every alien species had thought before they arrived. Alice looked at the course and shrugged. "Looks tricky," she said softly, adjusting the straps on her gloves. Tom grinned, cracking his knuckles. "Tricky is easy. Watch and learn." Mia scanned the sequence of moving platforms and rotating bars, mapping the course in her head. Leo stood quietly, flexing his arms, ready to use raw strength wherever it was needed. The 4 of them had grown up on a planet that didn't forgive mistakes. Every misstep here was something they had already mastered in far worse conditions. A loud chime sounded, signaling the start. The first alien student leapt forward, extending its limbs to their maximum. It floated above one of the spinning platforms, timing its landing perfectly. For a moment it seemed effortless. But as soon as it tried to cross the rotating bar, it slipped. Its claws scratched the metal and it fell into a glowing pit below. Another alien student tried a different approach, swinging on a chain while dodging energy beams. It misjudged the swing and slammed into a barrier. The crowd murmured in disbelief. No one had ever failed this badly before. Alice took a deep breath, feeling the familiar rush of adrenaline. She sprinted toward the first platform, her boots clanging against the metal. The platform tilted under her weight, but she rolled forward, using the tilt to propel herself onto the next one. Tom ran beside her, leaping across a gap that looked far too wide for a human to cross. He hit the edge perfectly and scrambled up, unsteady for a moment but recovering before he even touched the ground. Mia approached a set of swinging bars. Instead of timing her jump like the aliens had been taught, she simply grabbed the first bar and swung wildly, letting her momentum carry her across. The bar twisted and rotated under her weight, almost throwing her off, but she clung on, letting instinct guide her landing. Leo saw a wobbling platform blocking their path. He didn't hesitate. He pushed it with his shoulder, using his strength to stabilize it just enough for the others to cross safely. The alien instructors gasped and whispered to one another. How are they still standing?" one muttered. Every other species had followed careful training routines, precise measurements, and repeated calculations. The humans had none of that. They relied on instinct, adaptation, and sheer toughness. Every slip, every stumble became an advantage. They moved unpredictably, and that unpredictability made them impossible to anticipate or stop. Alice reached a section where platforms spun rapidly. The other alien students paused, calculating angles, trying to wait for the perfect moment. Alice didn't wait. She sprinted onto the spinning platform, letting it toss her slightly forward. She rolled, grabbed a ledge and pulled herself up. The momentum carried her to the next platform and she barely slowed down. Tom followed a similar path, using the spinning motion to catapult himself over a bar that should have been too far to jump. Mia and Leo worked together, one stabilizing a platform while the other crossed, then switching. The audience of aliens watched in disbelief. The humans were messy, chaotic, and loud. They made mistakes, stumbled, and almost fell several times. But somehow they never truly failed. Every misstep turned into a new solution, every slip became momentum, every error became progress. The other students were precise and careful, but their precision was fragile. One small error and they fell. The humans didn't rely on perfection, they relied on survival. A group of alien students tried to block their path, moving strategically to slow them down. Alice ducked under one, grabbed a rotating pole and swung past another. Tom jumped over an alien trying to stand in his way, using the alien's own momentum to launch himself forward. Mia twisted her body mid-air, landing on a platform just as the energy barrier shifted. Leo lifted a bar that was blocking their path, throwing it aside with brute strength. The humans were working as a team but not in the way the aliens expected. Their coordination was messy, untrained, but it was effective. As they neared the final stretch, a massive rotating wall loomed ahead. Every alien had failed here before. The wall moved with unpredictable patterns, with energy beams shooting from its sides. Alice didn't hesitate. She sprinted toward it, timing her jump with the wall's rotation, and slammed against the surface, grabbing a small ledge. She swung her body, using every ounce of strength to push herself upward. Tom followed, climbing over her shoulder when needed. Mia leapt with a cry, twisting midair to avoid the beams. Leo simply ran, dodged, and shoved his way through, shrugging off minor burns from the energy barriers. When they reached the end, the humans collapsed on the ground, breathing hard, their clothes scorched and dirty, their bodies bruised but intact. They had crossed the course first. Silence filled the platform. Every alien instructor and student stood frozen, staring at them. None of them had expected humans to succeed. Some whispered accusations of cheating. Others shook their heads, unable to comprehend what they had just seen. Alice sat up, wiping sweat from her brow. "Well," she said, grinning, "that wasn't so bad." Tom laughed, clapping his hands together. "Not bad? That was incredible." Mia rolled her eyes but smiled faintly. Leo just chuckled, satisfied. They had survived something no other species had managed. They hadn't done it with elegance, precision, or training. They had done it with instinct, adaptability, and teamwork. The instructor with 6 arms raised them slowly, a gesture that meant acknowledgement. Its 3 eyes blinked in disbelief. "Humans, this is impossible," it muttered. "They cannot, how?" The words trailed off. No one had an answer. Humans had turned failure into success, chaos into victory, unpredictability into triumph. Other alien students looked at them differently now. Some were angry, some envious, but a few were curious. They whispered among themselves, trying to understand how the humans had done it. They had not seen skill like this before, not in any species. The humans were not precise or delicate. They were raw, wild, dangerous, and incredibly effective. Alice stood up fully, brushing herself off. "Come on," she said to the others. "Next round is waiting." Tom groaned dramatically but followed, still smiling. Mia and Leo fell in step beside them. They had survived the first test, but they all knew this academy would not stop here. The aliens stared as the humans walked away, their bodies tired, their faces determined, and their eyes bright. Something had changed. The humans were no longer the fragile outsiders the instructors had mocked. They were something else, something stronger, something unpredictable. And in this academy of perfection and precision, unpredictability was a force no one could calculate. Alice looked back briefly, seeing the whispering aliens still staring at them. "Let them talk," she said quietly. "We just have to keep moving." Tom nodded. "Yeah, let them think what they want. We know the truth." Mia smiled faintly. "The truth is we survive. That's all that matters." Leo's grin was wide. "And winning comes after." They moved on, ready for the next challenge, tired but energized, bruised but alive. For the humans, this obstacle course was not just a test of skill, it was proof that their Deathworld training had made them capable of surviving anything. And no alien, no matter how skilled, had seen anything like them before. By the time the humans left the course, the instructor's voice echoed across the platform once more, though it was quieter, filled with an almost reluctant respect. "Impossible, humans, impossible," it muttered again. Alice, Tom, Mia, and Leo exchanged glances, silently agreeing. They had proven themselves once and they would do it again. They were humans, Deathworlders, survivors. And nothing, not spinning platforms, energy beams, or alien disbelief, would stop them. The humans had barely recovered from the obstacle course when the instructors called them to the next challenge. This time it was different. No spinning platforms or swinging bars. This test was designed to confuse, trap, and overwhelm. The area was filled with puzzles, shifting floors, hidden traps, and a dense, glowing fog that smelled faintly of metal and chemicals. Alien students approached cautiously, their multi-jointed limbs testing each step, their eyes scanning for threats, and yet most hesitated, unsure of how to proceed. Alice looked at the fog and tilted her head. "Smells like trouble," she muttered. Tom, grinning, replied, "Good. Trouble is our specialty." Mia bent slightly, eyes scanning the ground and the glowing fog, noticing subtle changes in the floor's surface. Leo crossed his arms and simply said, "Let's move. We'll figure it out as we go." The humans were confident not because they knew the solutions, but because they knew how to survive. Survival, after all, was about adapting faster than the danger itself. The instructors made a show of activating the test. Panels on the walls shifted, energy beams pulsed through the fog, and a low hum grew louder as the traps became active. Every alien student hesitated, some retreating slightly before trying to calculate their next step. The humans, however, stepped forward without pause. Each of them moved differently, relying not on precision or careful measurements, but on instincts honed through years of surviving on a death world. The first trap was a floor panel that collapsed under weight. Every alien student carefully tested it with a claw or a tendril, taking seconds to judge if it was safe. Alice stepped forward confidently. She jumped, landing partially on a stable panel and partially on the edge of a weak one. The panel tipped slightly, but she rolled forward, using the wobble to spring herself to the next section. Tom followed, adjusting mid-jump as the floor shifted beneath him. The aliens watching gasped. Humans did not move like they were supposed to. They moved like they were alive, reacting to danger, not trying to be perfect. Mia noticed a section blocked by a series of glowing cubes, each pulsing and rearranging themselves constantly. Most students froze, trying to memorize the pattern. Mia, however, ran straight into the middle, testing each movement as she went. She discovered a hidden path between two cubes that the other students had never seen. "This way," she called, signaling the others. Leo shoved aside a floating panel that blocked their path, using his strength to clear the way. Even when the energy beams flickered dangerously, the humans adjusted instinctively, ducking, rolling, or sprinting without hesitation. The fog grew thicker as they advanced. It was toxic, designed to slow reflexes and confuse senses. Some alien students coughed, stumbled, or paused entirely, losing precious seconds. The humans, however, were used to harsh environments. They held their breath when needed, waved their hands in front of their faces to test the air, and moved deliberately but quickly. Each step was careful but not cautious. They relied on reactions, not predictions, and that made all the difference. Alice paused briefly to observe a trap, a swinging arm covered in spikes that moved in a random rhythm. Other students hesitated, waiting for the perfect moment. Alice simply timed it with her instincts, running as the arm swung away and ducking at the last second. Tom followed, sprinting and twisting his body around the spikes. Mia ran ahead, leaping onto a higher platform and signaling that the path was clear. Leo used brute force to move a fallen panel into place, creating a bridge over a small pit. Their approach was messy, unpredictable, and utterly effective. A particularly complex puzzle lay ahead, a set of colored panels on the ground that lit up in a specific sequence. Aliens approached it cautiously, trying to memorize the pattern. Alice watched it for a moment and then stepped on a panel that no one else would dare. It lit up, causing another sequence to change. Tom jumped onto the next panel instinctively. Mia twisted her body to reach a far square. Leo simply pushed a panel to hold it in place. By combining improvisation and quick thinking, they solved the puzzle without ever following the correct order the aliens expected. The other students watched in disbelief. They don't follow the rules," one whispered. Another muttered, "It's impossible. They can't survive like that." Yet they did survive, and more than that, they thrived. Their unpredictability, which the aliens considered a weakness, was their greatest strength. Every time the environment changed, they adjusted. Every time a trap activated, they found a way through it. Their death world instincts were unmatched, turning obstacles into opportunities. At one point, the fog thickened so much that visibility was nearly zero. Alien students paused, trying to move carefully. Alice held Tom's hand to avoid separation. Mia felt the walls for subtle vibrations, sensing where platforms and hazards were hidden. Leo led from the rear, pushing aside any obstacles that blocked the others. They communicated silently with gestures, touches, and nods. Their coordination wasn't precise in the alien sense, it was raw, human, and effective. The final section was the most dangerous. A maze of narrow walkways with glowing energy barriers that shifted randomly. The aliens approached slowly, testing every step. Alice ran forward, sprinting across one walkway, leaping over gaps, ducking under beams. Tom followed, swinging from rails where needed. Mia twisted mid-air to land on a moving platform. Leo used brute force to stabilize a section that wobbled dangerously under their weight. Step by step they advanced, never stopping, never doubting. When they reached the end, they were breathing hard, clothes torn, and skin marked from minor burns and scrapes. They had survived the test in a way that no other student had managed. Not first in speed perhaps, but first in survival. The alien instructors looked stunned, some unable to speak. The humans had not followed the carefully designed patterns or rules. They had survived by thinking differently, improvising constantly, and relying on instincts honed in a harsher world than this academy could ever create. Alice wiped sweat from her forehead, smiling faintly. "That wasn't too bad," she said. Tom laughed, clapping her shoulder. "Not bad? That was chaos at its finest." Mia gave a small nod, satisfied. "We survived. That's what matters." Leo grinned, his eyes scanning the instructors. "And apparently we're better at survival than they thought." The instructors conferred quietly, glancing at the other alien students who had struggled to even reach halfway. "Impossible," one muttered. "Humans, they think differently." Another said, "They do not follow patterns, yet they succeed." The whispers spread among the crowd. These humans were not fragile, not slow, not weak. They were unpredictable, clever, and resilient in ways no other species had ever been. The humans walked away from the maze, tired but proud. They didn't celebrate loudly, didn't boast. They simply moved forward, ready for the next test. Each had learned something about this strange alien academy, and each had proven something about themselves. Survival didn't require perfection. Survival required adaptation, instinct, and courage. And no alien, no matter how advanced, could replicate what humans could do when pushed to the limit. Alice glanced back at the maze one last time. "Let them watch," she said quietly. "We don't need anyone to understand how we do it." Tom chuckled. "They'll figure it out eventually or not." Mia smiled faintly. "We just have to keep moving." Leo's grin widened. "And surviving, of course. That's what we're best at." The fog settled behind them, hiding the chaos they had just navigated. Other students whispered about the humans, some in awe, some in disbelief. They had survived traps, puzzles, and toxic challenges in ways the aliens could not comprehend. And as Alice, Tom, Mia, and Leo moved toward the next stage, one thought ran clearly in their minds. Whatever came next, they would survive it too. Because humans did not rely on perfection, they relied on being human. And that was enough. The humans stepped into the next challenge, a massive gravity maze that twisted and rotated in ways no human mind had ever designed. Walls moved sideways and floors tilted unpredictably. Sections of the maze floated in midair while others sank suddenly, and random energy fields pulsed through the paths, threatening to knock anyone off balance. Alien students stared at the entrance, some taking careful, calculated steps, while others hovered in the air, unwilling to risk the unpredictability. Every instructor had warned that no team had ever finished this challenge. The maze was designed to crush the weak and to humiliate the strong. Alice surveyed the course carefully, though she didn't spend too long planning. She had learned that in life, plans often fell apart, and it was instincts and quick thinking that saved the day. "We stick together," she said softly, looking at Tom, Mia, and Leo. Tom grinned. "Together and messy. That's how we win." Mia nodded, already scanning the maze for patterns in the shifting walls. Leo simply flexed his arms and said, "Let's move." The maze doesn't wait for anyone. Their confidence was quiet but strong, the kind that came from surviving environments far worse than anything an alien academy could throw at them. The signal sounded and the walls began moving. The maze tilted, shifted, and pulsed as the humans stepped forward. Almost immediately, a section of floor collapsed under Tom, sending him sliding toward a deep gap. Alice lunged forward, catching his arm and yanking him to safety. Tom coughed and laughed. "Thanks." Almost became a pancake. Alice rolled her eyes but said nothing, already scanning the next obstacle. The maze forced them into tight corridors, narrow walkways with walls that moved closer with no warning. Energy barriers lit up randomly and sections of the floor dropped suddenly. Mia paused at one section where a sliding wall blocked the path. The other students hesitated, unsure how to proceed. Mia twisted her body and pushed a hidden panel on the wall, revealing a narrow passage that bypassed the trap entirely. "This way," she called, waving the others forward. Leo carried their small equipment pack across a floating platform that wobbled dangerously. When the platform tilted, he steadied it with his weight, letting the others cross safely. Alice followed, leaping from one platform to another, her feet finding balance instinctively on the unstable surfaces. Tom sprinted, ducking under energy beams that shot out unpredictably. The humans moved as a unit, each covering the weaknesses of the others while pushing forward at a speed no alien student could match. An area of the maze rotated suddenly, changing gravity so that the ceiling became the floor. Alien students froze, some panicking, others floating helplessly as their bodies adjusted slowly to the new orientation. Alice didn't hesitate. She ran along the ceiling, using handholds and ledges to move forward. Tom followed, twisting in midair to avoid a swinging energy beam. Mia found a door that blocked their next section, and with a twist of a lever and a push of her shoulder, it opened smoothly. Leo supported the team by lifting debris that fell in their path, holding panels steady with sheer strength. The maze was chaotic, dangerous, and constantly shifting, but humans thrived in chaos. Every obstacle seemed designed to stop them, yet they reacted instinctively. Where other species relied on precise timing or calculated movement, the humans relied on awareness, instincts, and teamwork. They communicated silently, gestures, nods, touches, moving in perfect disorder. Each mistake was corrected immediately, each misstep turned into advantage. At one point, Tom stumbled on a rotating bar, nearly falling into a pit of glowing energy. Alice caught him again, holding him steady as he regained his balance. "Careful," she said, though there was a small smile on her face. "We can't have you ending the run this early." Tom laughed, brushing himself off, and Mia called ahead, spotting a floating platform that would let them bypass a dangerous trap entirely. Leo pushed aside the obstacles blocking the path, making it safe for the others. As they neared the center of the maze, a large rotating wall blocked the path. Energy beams shot out randomly and small platforms moved underfoot, threatening to drop them into the pit below. Alien students had stopped entirely at this point, unable to figure out how to proceed. Alice measured the timing with her instincts, then sprinted forward, dodging the beams with a combination of agility and intuition. Tom followed, twisting his body midair to avoid the barriers. Mia ran across a moving platform, activating a hidden lever to open a shortcut door. Leo lifted and stabilized a panel, giving the others solid footing. The humans moved as a team but not in a conventional sense. They were messy, chaotic, unpredictable, and loud at times, but effective. Every hazard was met with action, every trap met with instinct. Their movements seemed reckless to the aliens, but every leap, duck, and push had a purpose. Chaos had become their strategy. Finally, they approached the last section, a series of narrow walkways above a pit filled with glowing liquid. The walkways tilted unpredictably and energy beams shot from all directions. The aliens had failed here repeatedly. Alice sprinted across first, sliding at the last second to avoid a beam. Tom followed, rolling and grabbing a ledge to steady himself. Mia twisted midair to land on the moving walkway, pushing a lever that stabilized the path for Leo. Leo used his strength to steady the tilting walkways so the others could move without fear of falling. Step by step, they advanced, working as a team without needing perfect coordination, each covering the gaps left by the others. When they crossed the finish line, they collapsed together, breathing heavily, bruised and scratched, but alive. They had finished first. The alien instructors stared, unable to comprehend what had just happened. This maze had been designed to crush teams, to humiliate the strongest species, yet these humans had survived and thrived. Their method was messy, unconventional, and impossible to predict, but it worked. Chaos had become victory. The alien students whispered among themselves. Some were angry, others confused. How? One said, shaking its head. Another muttered, they do not follow the rules, yet they succeed. The instructors conferred quietly, their multi-eyed faces filled with disbelief. Impossible, one murmured. These humans, they adapt differently. They survive differently. Alice sat down on the edge of the platform, wiping sweat from her brow. Well, that went better than expected, she said. Tom laughed, brushing himself off. Better than expected? That was perfect chaos. Mia smiled faintly. We survived. That's what matters. Leo crossed his arms, grinning. And we finished first. That's just a bonus. Even as they rested, the instructors continued to watch, whispering among themselves. Humans had proven something that no alien had thought possible. They weren't precise or delicate. They were resilient, instinctive, and adaptable. Their survival skills, honed on a harsh death world, allowed them to thrive in situations that had been designed to defeat the strongest alien teams. The humans stood and stretched, ready for whatever came next. They did not boast, did not celebrate loudly, they simply prepared for the next challenge. They had learned the maze could not stop them. The maze, with all its shifting walls, energy fields, and traps, had only highlighted what they already knew. Humans survived because they adapted, reacted, and worked together in ways no alien had ever considered. Alice looked back at the maze, the floating platforms, and the energy barriers. Let them watch, she said quietly. They can't understand us. And that's fine. Tom grinned. Exactly. They'll just keep underestimating us. Mia nodded. We just keep moving forward. That's all we need to do. Leo's smile widened. And surviving is the easiest part. Winning is the rest. The humans walked away from the gravity maze, tired, scratched, and bruised, but victorious. They had turned chaos into teamwork, danger into success, and confusion into achievement. The Academy had expected failure. Humans had delivered something entirely new, a reminder that adaptability, courage, and instinct could overcome the impossible. And they knew the next test would be harder, but it did not matter. Humans thrived in challenge, chaos, and danger. They would face whatever came next with the same determination, teamwork, and instincts that had carried them through the impossible gravity maze. The humans had barely caught their breath from the gravity maze when the announcement came. The instructors had tallied the results of all the tests so far, and the news spread like wildfire across the Academy. Alice, Tom, Mia, and Leo had topped the class. Not just passed or finished, it was first place. The alien students whispered in shock, disbelief, and in some cases, anger. Many of the species present had trained for years to survive these tests, perfecting every move, memorizing every pattern, yet these humans had simply adapted and outperformed them. A group of alien students, their faces showing frustration, muttered among themselves. Impossible, one said. No species can achieve this without special training or genetic enhancement. Another sneered, they are lucky. Nothing more. But even as they spoke, the humans' names were being mentioned again and again in astonishment. The Academy, known for producing elite students, had never seen such performance in its history. Alice, Tom, Mia, and Leo walked through the central plaza, feeling the eyes of the alien students upon them. Some looked curious, others angry, some openly jealous. The humans had learned long ago that envy and hostility often followed success. Alice shrugged slightly. Let them talk, she said quietly. Tom grinned. Yeah, let them stew while we rest. Mia gave a small smile. We survived. That's enough. Leo simply nodded, his eyes scanning the crowd. He liked knowing that their reputation was spreading. Their rise to the top did not go unnoticed. A proud alien, taller and stronger than most, approached the humans. Its 6 arms flexed as it spoke, its 3 eyes narrowing. I am K-Layer, it said, voice sharp with authority. You humans have reached first place by chance, not skill. I challenge you to prove yourselves in direct competition. Surely you will fail and we will see your true worth. The crowd of alien students hushed, watching the scene unfold. This was a challenge that no student could ignore. Failure would not only be personal, it would shame their species. Alice studied K-Layer for a moment. She could sense the confidence radiating from the alien, the pride that believed humans could not possibly match strength, precision, or skill. She smiled faintly. We accept, she said simply. Tom nodded, flexing his fingers. Let's show them what humans can do. Mia scanned the arena, noting the walls, hazards, and traps that could affect the fight. Leo stepped forward, adjusting his stance, ready to counter whatever the alien would throw at them. The arena was large, circular, and filled with obstacles. Floating platforms hovered above a pit of glowing liquid, energy barriers shot across gaps, and narrow walkways twisted in every direction. K-Layer moved first, leaping gracefully onto a platform and striking with all 6 arms. The humans dodged instinctively. Alice rolled under one strike, Tom leapt sideways over another, Mia ducked while twisting her body, and Leo used his brute strength to push a barrier into K-Layer's path, slowing it down. The alien was fast and precise, but the humans moved unpredictably. Each one covered the other's weaknesses, each slip turned into advantage, each misstep into opportunity. Kalair lunged at Alice, swinging with multiple arms. She dodged to the side, using the momentum of the swing to propel herself onto a moving platform. Tom followed, hopping between floating bars and avoiding energy beams that crisscrossed the arena. Mia found a hidden lever in the wall, pushing it to open a pathway for Leo. Leo ran across a narrow ledge, using his strength to stabilize it as it tilted under his weight. They moved in a chaotic rhythm difficult for the alien to predict. The crowd watched in amazement. They are working as one unit, one alien whispered. But not in any pattern we recognize, another added. Kalair swung and struck again, faster this time. Alice ducked under one attack, rolled across a beam, and pushed Kalair's arms slightly off balance. Tom leapt onto a higher platform, striking from above, forcing the alien to dodge instead of attack. Mia triggered another panel, opening a trap that momentarily ensnared Kalair. Leo charged forward, using his weight to push a moving wall that blocked the alien's path. Every move they made was instinctive, not rehearsed, but it worked perfectly. Kalair growled in frustration. It had expected an easy victory, but the humans were proving to be entirely unpredictable. No alien could anticipate their moves. Alice pivoted suddenly, catching the alien off guard and forcing it to stumble. Tom used the momentum to swing over its head, landing behind it. Mia pushed a lever that created a temporary barrier, shielding the team from an incoming attack. Leo charged forward, striking with force to disrupt the alien's balance. Chaos had become their weapon and instinct their shield. As the fight continued, it became clear that humans were not relying on raw power alone. They adapted quickly to every new attack, every shift in the environment. The gravity of the arena shifted, but they adjusted. Energy beams flashed unexpectedly, but they ducked, rolled, and leapt without hesitation. Kalair was strong and skilled, but strength and skill alone could not match adaptability and instinct. The humans' teamwork was unconventional, messy even, but perfectly effective. The alien students watching grew quieter, some even leaning forward in disbelief. Impossible, one whispered. They survive by unpredictability. Another muttered, humans, they fight differently. They do not rely on logic alone. They react. They adapt. They survive. The instructors themselves observed closely, their multiple eyes blinking rapidly. This was not the way any other species had succeeded. Humans did not calculate, they instinctively responded to threats, turning chaos into victory. Alice landed on a platform pointing to a lever. Mia understood immediately, pushing it to open another pathway. Tom rolled under Kalair's strike and vaulted over the alien, landing near Alice. Leo used brute strength to move a barrier into the alien's path, forcing it to redirect its attack. Step by step, move by move, they forced Kalair back using teamwork, instinct, and unpredictability. Finally, Kalair faltered. One misstep, caused by the humans' chaotic but effective movements, unbalanced the alien. Alice seized the moment, rolling past Kalair and activating the final lever that marked the end of the arena. Tom, Mia, and Leo followed immediately. The humans had won. They stood together, breathing heavily, bruised and scratched but victorious. The crowd erupted. Some aliens gasped, some shouted, and others were silent, unable to comprehend what they had just seen. Kalair glared at the humans but said nothing. It had expected an easy victory and found itself defeated not by strength or skill, but by instinct, adaptability, and teamwork. The humans had shown that being unpredictable and thinking differently could overcome even the strongest opponent. Alice looked around at the crowd, brushing dirt from her clothes. That was something, she said quietly. Tom laughed, clapping Leo on the back. That was everything. Total chaos, total victory. Mia nodded, a faint smile on her face. We survived. That's all that matters. Leo grinned widely. And we won. That's the rest of it. The instructors whispered among themselves. They are not like any other species, one said. They do not follow rules, yet they succeed. Humans, perhaps they are something new entirely. The alien students continued to murmur, some envious, some in awe. The humans had proven that instinct, adaptability, and teamwork could triumph where training and precision failed. Alice, Tom, Mia, and Leo left the arena quietly, not celebrating loudly. They had won, yes, but they knew this was only one challenge. More tests awaited them, and each would be different. But for now they had earned recognition, not just as survivors but as something the Academy had never expected. Humans were not fragile. Humans were not predictable. Humans were unstoppable when they worked together and trusted their instincts. And in that moment, at the center of an alien academy filled with skilled and proud students, Alice, Tom, Mia, and Leo realized something important. Survival was not about following the rules. It was about understanding the world around you, moving with it, and trusting yourself, and each other, to overcome anything. They walked off the arena floor, victorious, proud, and ready for whatever came next, knowing that humans had shown something no other species could match. The air in the Academy's central hall was electric with excitement and tension as the day of graduation arrived. Students from countless species gathered to witness the final ceremony, but all eyes were drawn to 4 humans: Alice, Tom, Mia, and Leo. They had already proven themselves in every challenge, yet no one could predict what the instructors would say. Alien students whispered to one another, some in envy, others in awe, and a few simply staring in disbelief. It was rare for any species to dominate the Academy, let alone humans, creatures they had all assumed fragile, weak, and unremarkable. Alice, Tom, Mia, and Leo walked into the hall calmly, their movements relaxed but confident. They were bruised, tired, and slightly battered from the countless tests, but their eyes shone with determination. Alice glanced around at the alien crowd, seeing the mix of reactions. Tom noticed the pride hidden in some glances, Mia observed the curiosity in others, and Leo simply felt the satisfaction of having survived challenges no other species could endure. The head instructor, the tall 6-armed being with 3 eyes that had observed every test, stepped forward. A hush fell over the hall. "We have witnessed feats never before seen in this academy," it began, its voice deep and resonant. "Species that have trained for centuries have failed where these humans have succeeded. Humans, you defy all expectations." The words echoed across the hall, and even the most confident alien students looked stunned. Alice's lips curled into a small smile, Tom grinned widely, Mia's eyes sparkled with satisfaction, and Leo straightened, proud and calm. They had never sought praise. Their victories had not been about impressing anyone, they had been about survival, adaptation, and proving what humans could do when pushed to the limit. Yet here, in the Alien Academy, their accomplishments were being recognized not only as skill but as something revolutionary. The head instructor continued. "Your instinct, adaptability, and teamwork have set a new standard. You survived every test, every challenge, every trap. You have shown that human resilience surpasses calculated perfection. You are now legends in this academy." The 4 humans exchanged glances, understanding the weight of the words. They had not simply completed the course, they had rewritten the expectations of the galaxy itself. The alien students murmured among themselves. Some bowed slightly in respect, others stared wide-eyed. Even those who had doubted them before seemed to feel a mixture of awe and disbelief. One alien muttered to another, "They survive where we fail. They are remarkable." Another whispered, "Perhaps humans are not meant to be measured by our standards at all." Alice stepped forward, accepting the recognition with quiet dignity. Tom clapped Mia and Leo on the back, grinning. Mia nodded, smiling faintly. Leo simply crossed his arms, satisfied. They did not need trophies, medals, or ceremonies to feel the weight of their achievements, they knew it in their bones. Humans were survivors, and their presence in the academy had already changed how every species would look at them from that day forward. The ceremony continued with the presentation of symbols marking their graduation. Every human was formally recognized, and the academy formally recorded their achievements. Instructors spoke of their instinctive coordination, their ability to adapt to chaos, and their unwavering courage. They spoke of humans as a species that turned failure into advantage, unpredictability into strategy, and danger into opportunity. The humans stood quietly, letting the praise wash over them without arrogance. They did not need to shout, their actions had already spoken louder than words ever could. As they walked out of the hall, other students approached them. Some were curious, asking questions about how they survived the impossible challenges. Others were envious but respectful, recognizing that these humans had accomplished what no one else could. Alice answered calmly, "We did what we had to do." Tom added, "Survival isn't about perfection, it's about adapting to what's in front of you." Mia said, "You learn by acting, not just thinking." Leo simply nodded, "And you never give up." Outside the academy, the humans looked over the floating platforms and strange alien landscapes. They had arrived as outsiders, dismissed and underestimated, but they were leaving as legends. Their names, Alice, Tom, Mia, and Leo, would be remembered by every species that had witnessed their victories. Their methods, chaotic and instinctive, would inspire discussions and debates for generations. The academy had been designed to produce the best, but these humans had shown that sometimes, the best comes from resilience, courage, and unpredictability. Even the instructors who had doubted them initially were thoughtful. They whispered among themselves, realizing that humans had introduced a new concept into the academy, a species that survived not by perfection, but by instinct, adaptability, and teamwork. One instructor muttered, "We have much to learn from them. Their methods, their resilience, it is unlike anything we have seen." Alice looked at her friends and smiled faintly. "We did it," she said quietly. Tom laughed, relieved and happy. "We really did." Mia nodded, satisfied, though thoughtful as she considered the challenges that still awaited them in life. Leo grinned, looking at the horizon. "And this is just the beginning. The galaxy hasn't seen the last of humans yet." As they left the academy, students and instructors watched silently, realizing that something had changed. The humans had not only survived, they had rewritten the rules. They had proven that survival did not depend on careful calculation or perfect technique, but on instinct, adaptability, and courage. Humans had become the new benchmark, a standard against which all other species would now measure themselves. The four humans walked together across the alien landscape, battered but proud, tired but triumphant. Their journey had been filled with challenges that would have destroyed any ordinary species. Yet they had adapted, survived, and excelled. They had become more than students. They had become a symbol of resilience, ingenuity, and strength. Across the galaxy, tales of their achievements would spread. Every academy, every training ground, every species would hear of the humans who had turned chaos into victory and unpredictability into power. Alice glanced at the floating platforms of the academy one last time. "We leave our mark," she said softly. Tom chuckled, "And they won't forget it." Mia nodded, looking thoughtful. "They'll remember how we survived. That's what counts." Leo's grin widened, his voice firm, "And now everyone knows, humans are unstoppable." Together, they stepped into their shuttle, leaving the alien academy behind. The ceremony, the challenges, and the recognition were complete. They were no longer just survivors, they were legends. And as the shuttle lifted off, gliding into the sky above the strange, glowing world, it was clear that their story was only beginning. Humans had set a new standard, and the galaxy would never look at life the same way again. Their survival skills, their teamwork, and their instinct had become the measure of excellence. They had faced the impossible and turned it into success. Alice, Tom, Mia, and Leo had shown that being human meant more than strength or intelligence. It meant adapting, surviving, and thriving in ways no other species could. And as they looked out at the stars, the future spread before them, full of new challenges, new worlds, and new victories waiting to be claimed. They had arrived as outsiders, faced impossible odds, and now left as legends. Their story would inspire generations. Humans had proved that survival was not about following rules. It was about thinking differently, acting instinctively, and never giving up. The Academy would remember them. The galaxy would remember them. And humanity, in all its resilience and unpredictability, had set a standard that no species could ignore.